Some people call us fanatics. I consider ourselves enthusiasts. I'm Kaiji Noir, and this is Shoewatch!
Super dynamic!
Fuck you guys, I'm not doing it.
Still,
This,
Dave,
this,
still
this,
Dylan?
this podcast isn't even going up on your channel, Andres. Who the fuck do you think you're gonna, trick? like, what do you hope to achieve with this thing?
You got yourself a point there, Dylan. Hello, people of the internet. This is Kaiji Noir, and this is not Shoewatch, but rather an episode of the Sons of Serizawa podcast. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be episode 2 of our relaunch, considering that as of the time of this recording, episode 1 hasn't even been launched yet, so who's to say? That's going to ultimately be up to Bill, but Bill is not here for the moment. Instead, it's just going to be me and my two amigos, the one and only David Joshua Hernandez, aka Gorizard.
Chaos theory. No one knew that Bill was going to be absent.
I know. It's a sad day when you are here in his place. And last but certainly not...
No one could have guessed that Bill would jump out of a moving car. Oh, wait, what?
And of course, last but certainly not least, the one and only Dylan McCandless, a.k.a. Super DM64.
Hello, people. And at the time of this recording, or not the time of this recording, at the time that you were listening to this, me and Bill's review of Resurrection F may or may not be up. So that's a thing you may or may not be able to watch. Oh, I actually just got a notification on my phone. Bill just uploaded last episode of SOS.
Wait, what?
He just now uploaded the first episode of the relaunch.
Son of a bitch.
It's probably going to be really shitty, though, because he told me once before that he was thinking about, not even editing it and just, putting up the raw audio. But
well, then again, isn't that, for the most part, what he does already? I mean, it's not like he goes
he trims a little bit.
He chops off, the beginning and the ends, right?
Well, no, there are times when he sometimes does, middle editing to, leaves in, long spaces of silence. Or there have been times where, I remember having a conversation on recording, and then when I listen to the episode, it's not there. So, I mean, there are times when he does things.
He just does things.
Which is more than I can say for me. There are not times that I do things.
Right. In fact, the exact opposite would happen, wouldn't you say? Where you don't do things, you just don't do things.
Exactly. I just don't
do things. You just don't. That's a nice catchphrase. You should stick to it.
And now David is dropped from the call.
Perfect. Brilliant. This episode is going to go really well, I bet you. I mean, after all, this was originally supposed to be a Halloween episode, but let's face it, this episode's going to go up, way after the fact. And
we should probably just talk about Christmas, because I think this is when this is going up. So Christmas, you guys.
Yeah,
isn't everything Christmassy? With all the Christmas ornaments and the Christmassy... Oh, he's back. Christmas things?
Yeah, hey, David, guess what? This is now going to be a Christmas episode.
My internet spaced out for a whole minute, so I have no idea what you guys were talking about.
Basically, we've decided that this is going to be a Christmas episode because it's probably going to be that long before it gets posted. So everybody, Christmas.
Yeah, that holiday that keeps... rearing its way into every single facet of our lives before December's even announced.
Well, not even Christmas. It could be just a New Year's episode.
Nobody really cares about New Year's until the actual day of New Year's, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but knowing Bill, he would take probably that long.
I guess so. You got yourself a point there. I mean, how long ago was it that we recorded episode 1?
You're right. You guys are right. And it's getting worse, in between episodes, the spaces in between posting them. So, okay. I'm going to make a prediction. Welcome to the New Year's episode for the year 2020. You guys excited for that King Kong versus Godzilla?
Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to the future. Future. But, speaking of the future, how was Back to the Future Day for both of you? Considering that this was a day in geek history that people were really going apeshit over on Facebook.
I was sort of disappointed because
did
flying
people
cars.
Did people actually go out and do shit?
I know a lot of brand companies did. A lot of companies came out to try to capitalize on Back to the Future Day.
For a limited time, there was something called Pepsi Free that you could actually buy.
Yeah, Pepsi Perfect, and it would be these bottles, actual Pepsi bottles made to look like the kind from the Back to the Future 2 movie, and they costed $20 a pop, I think. Yeah.
That's what I meant to say. Pepsi Free was a thing in the 80s, which is why Michael J. Fox goes back to the 50s and says, I want a Pepsi Free. And the guy's like, hey, man, you want a Pepsi? You got to pay for it.
Oh, yeah, I remember that joke. Growing up, I didn't get the joke because, I didn't grow up with Pepsi Free. They made Pepsi Perfect. They made, I don't know, 5,000 bottles for $20 a piece, and now you can go on eBay and look for one for, maybe $500. And, let's see. I know Nike, they were making those self-lacing shoes. They were planning on selling through auction. And they posted a video. They're not done yet, but they posted a video on online of Michael J. Fox actually trying them out for the first time. And it was a really cool because the way his reaction to those self-lacing shoes just made me thought to myself, I'm listening to Marty McFly's reactions right now.
My biggest disappointment with Back to the Future Day was that Universal Studios had failed to release the 15 Jaws sequels that we need to make that prediction come true. They had 15 Jaws sequels. They had this whole year to get them done, and they made no progress. So
funny enough, Universal actually did release a fake trailer for Jaws 19. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
No.
Where it's in 1970, whatever, we brought you Jaws, made you afraid to go in the water. Jaws made you afraid to go back in the water. Jaws 3D brought a whole new dimension in terror. Jaws 4 made it personal. Jaws 5 was what was it called? Robo Jaws, then Cyber Jaws, then Jaws gets funky, then Jaws the remake, the remake, then Jaws whatever, the prequel to the remake. And then it was they had all these different versions. You're just looking at titles, and the narrator's just giving a brief description of all these different versions of Jaws, and then Jaws 19. This time, it's really, really personal.
That's genius. I love this concept.
Yeah, it's I want to see Cyber Jaws right now.
Somebody came up to me on the 22nd, and they were like, hey, it's Back to the Future Day? And I was like, no, man, that was yesterday. And I was like, you missed it. You missed the future, man.
I also really liked, probably my favorite thing about it was, Toyota. Toyota had this one guy who invented this car that could theoretically run on gas made from a combination of garbage and natural gases. And they brought in, Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox. And you see the you see the scientist. He's actually showing off the car to the two actors. It was a really nice, touching, and almost like a personal story, like a short film that was broken up into 3 or 4 parts. And what else? Oh, one last thing was I remember Jimmy Kimmel. He had the two actors reprise their roles as Doc and Marty. Who would appear on their show, and they're like, "Great Scott! Somehow went into an alternate 2015 where human evolution has stopped and has been replaced by meaningless technology." And that was also pretty fun to see those guys just get back in the roles of those characters. Although you can really tell that by their ages that they're well past their primes at this point.
I think I know how a Cyber Jaws movie could work.
Well, how?
I'm thinking a James Bond motif, because lately I've been into okay, for some reason I collected every single James Bond movie lately.
Okay.
And
did you get the Blu-ray box set?
Oh God, I wish. Well, here's what happened. Okay, well I'll tell you after the Jaws. Here's how Cyber Jaws should be done.
Okay.
What's the name of the
video?
Brody,
yeah.
from the first 2 Jaws films. So Brody,
yeah,
Brody is retired by this point. Let's say.
Wasn't he already dead?
Was he? Because I have not seen Jaws 2. Did he die?
No, he died. He died between movies. So by Jaws 4 or Jaws the
off
Revenge,
screen?
Yeah, he died off screen by Jaws 4.
Okay, let's make this not canon with Jaws 3 and 4. So, okay, let's say Brody is retired.
Yeah.
Or something, and the government, some government, doesn't have to be the U.S. government. It could be like any other government, saying that there's this shark that's terrorizing people. We need you to investigate it because you dealt with this shit before.
Yeah.
And he goes out there to investigate it, right?
Yeah.
Turns out that it's not a real shark; it's a robot shark. And guess who's piloting it? It's either Roy Scheider or the dude that got eaten by the shark in the first Jaws.
Oh, snap.
Now we make it really, really personal. Way more personal than Jaws 4.
And then we make it like a period piece set in the 90s during the Cold War, and turns out that was like a Cold War experiment.
It could work. That could have been. That's like a total like 90s bullshit idea.
Yeah.
I mean, Wild Wild West did something.
Oh yeah, we got to have the producer behind Wild Wild West and the never made Superman Lives movie, and have him like drop in a giant spider for no reason.
No, here's the plot twist. If John Peters produced Cyber Jaws, the robot shark has arachnid legs, so not only can it swim, but it can walk on land.
Yes,
on spider legs.
Fuck Sharktopus. This is the shit right here. I mean, he's got to come up with 3 rules. He can't fly, he can't have a fin, and what was the other rule that he had? He can't fly.
Can't look like a shark.
He can't look like a shark. Too in his own words, mind you, too faggy.
And don't call it Jaws.
Yeah, we can't call it Jaws. Only the title will be called Jaws, and nowhere. Well, technically, they never called him Jaws to begin with in any of the movies.
Right, but it's kind of like that Frankenstein scenario. They never called the monster Frankenstein, but pop culture for some reason calls the monster Frankenstein.
Yeah. It's kind of like when Peter Griffin, he referred to Jaws, like, I got a sequel for Jaws. It's called Bigger Jaws. That's when Jaws and Brody, they have to team up against Bigger Jaws. I'm thinking of a sequel that's called Even Bigger Jaws. Like, oh no, it's Bigger Jaws. No, looks like we have to team up now.
That kind of reminds me of an episode of The Simpsons where Bart was watching. Homer got free illegal cable, and they're watching all these Hollywood blockbusters on one channel. And it's this tiny little montage where they go from certain parts of the day watching different movies, and Bart's all like, "Oh, this is where Die Hard jumps through the window. Oh, this is where Jaws eats the boat." And he's just referencing the title of the movie of the central film.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, considering how much John McClane has turned into a superhero by Die Hard 5, I'm not surprised that it's called Die Hard. That already sounds like a superhero name.
Right.
Wait, I think there was a superhero character in the 90s called Die Hard. I think he was part of Youngblood. But then again, nobody cares because nobody nowadays gives a shit about Youngblood.
So that fake Jaws trailer was genius.
Oh, you saw it. I'm so glad you did. I love it where, like, they had, like, Russian Jaws.
Jaws
like...
12, the prequel, and Jaws 13, the sequel to the prequel.
And there was, like, that Russian Jaws is like Andrew Sharkovsky in Jaws 15. But, let's see. Trying to go back to the Future, I know one of the biggest things was, it was that day that they released, or re-released, the Back to the Future trilogy on Blu-ray again for the 30th anniversary, and I think they came out...
I wasn't gonna buy that Blu-ray because I already have the DVD set that came out a few years back.
Me too.
But now that I find out that there's like an original short on there featuring Doc Brown, and I'm like, that might be worth it.
Also, there's 2 versions of the 30th anniversary. There's the regular one, and then there's like the deluxe one that actually comes with the complete animated series of Back to the Future. If you guys remember that ever being on television, where there was an animated series that served as a sequel to Back to the Future trilogy.
I remember that.
And before and after each episode, there would be live action segments with Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown and Bill Nye the motherfucking Science Guy.
Yeah, I saw the set of the animated series at Walmart, and I was like, wow. I remember when I was on the G-Fest road trip, and I found out that was a thing.
Yeah. And now you could possibly get it alongside the Blu-ray trilogy itself. Also, I know that many people are disappointed that, the Back to the Future, the ride is no longer a thing at Universal Studios, but it's actually one of the bonus features for either of the Blu-rays to Back to the Future.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm pretty sure that special feature was on that DVD set that I already have, but But still, that's cool.
Yeah. So I'm really glad. I love it when, for a movie as popular as Back to the Future, I'm glad that Universal went all out in just jam-packing this thing with as many special features as they can, and even add more special features when they re-released it, as opposed to just simply slapping the last batch of DVDs, which is kind of like what happened with the new Godzilla DVDs that Sony brought out, where it's like two DVD collections containing all of the Heisei and Millennium movies, except they're the exact same DVDs from like the early 2000s.
Yeah, that's
just
bullshit.
The only new thing is the Blu-ray quality.
No, it's not really. I mean, it's like I said, they're exactly the same discs from 10 or 15 years ago.
Are we talking about the Blu-rays or the DVDs?
No, the two DVD box sets. They just recently released two box sets.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and this is after they released all their Blu-rays at this point.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about the Blu-rays.
I still need to get that Blu-ray release of Godzilla 2000. It's the only one of those Blu-rays that they released, aside from the Mothra trilogy, that I was actually interested in buying because it is the Japanese version.
Yeah.
The rest, I'm happy just to have these on DVD. I'm not one of the people who needs to have everything in every fucking format ever made.
I'm
I was thinking that you are. It's releases like these that prevents David from going to G-Fest every year.
I mean, I wouldn't do it with a movie like Mad Max or anything like that, but with, if it's Ultraman or Godzilla, then fuck yeah.
And unfortunately, these happen to be the franchises with the most installments in them.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, thank God for Sony for putting them in, like, I guess, like a two-film format.
Yeah.
Instead of individually, because then I would have, completely been broke.
There was a problem because they, fucked up the order on a lot of them, and I'm like...
Yeah. It's like, why the fuck would you pair Destroy It with Megaguirus?
I need my movies to be chronological, because that's how I arrange them on the shelf. If my movies are not chronological, then the universe goes into chaos.
And you don't like it when the universe goes into chaos.
Gotta pull some Doctor Who shit and make another Big Bang because the fucking DVDs are out of sync. It's bullshit.
Yeah, also, I just gotta ask, why would they release these DVDs? I mean, we have these... Okay, by normal Blu-ray standards, these deep Blu-rays are rather mediocre and bare bones, but, hey, as Godzilla fans, we'll take what we can get. But why would you release these... These re-release these outdated DVDs again? It's like, why? You've already given Godzilla fans, I guess, like the definitive versions. Why? Okay, yes, maybe they're a bit too expensive.
It's one thing if one of the movies is out of print and you want to re-release it for that reason. That's totally fine. That would have saved me from spending $70 fucking on fucking Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla when I bought that movie. If they had done that. That's one thing. But to just re-release a DVD just because you want to say, hey, look, it's a new release and make some money when you know perfectly fucking well that it's not a new release per se. It's just a fucking re-release of the old release.
Yeah. Also,
re-releasing bastards.
Remember when last year Classic Media re-released their DVD of Godzilla 54, and this is like after after Criterion came out with their Blu-ray and DVD of the original Godzilla 54.
Yeah, are you talking about? Is it the Toho Masterworks version of Godzilla?
Not the Toho Masterworks, because the Toho Masterworks, from what I can remember, came out in 2006. Then
I have both the Toho Masterworks DVD and the Criterion Blu-ray.
Yes.
That is one movie where I broke my rule about not buying multiple formats.
Yeah. But no, they actually Classic Media actually came out with a new DVD after their Masterworks DVD, after Criterion's Blu-ray. This came out last year to capitalize on Godzilla 2014, and I remember making a Facebook post about this, where I took a picture of the back of the book of the DVD box, where it labeled Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters as coming out in 1964 and 66.
You know why they did these shitty re-releases? I'll tell you exactly why they did these shitty re-releases.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know that the majority of people in America are only casually aware of Godzilla and don't have the level of knowledge about it that like we do.
Right.
And so they realize that these kids, these fucking children who don't know fucking shit because they're stupid, will be walking through Walmart and they'll see a fucking DVD on the shelf and they'll say, "Hey, it's a Godzilla movie like the one in theaters. Let's buy it." And that's the reason they do these shitty fucking re-releases, even though they're not adding anything new.
Mm-hmm.
It's bullshit.
I wonder if Sony actually makes enough profit to gain from these re-releases.
I assume so. I mean, after all, it's Godzilla. I'm sure anyone who hasn't already bought the old DVDs from the 2000s, nor the weird Mothra King Ghidorah triple feature that I saw a couple years ago, you know, if they haven't gotten those already, you know, there's another generation of DVD collectors that will collect those eventually.
And you know, it's people like David who have to buy every release that lets the studios get away with this bullshit.
In my defense, I did not know at the time of the reign of DVD's time that they would create something like Blu-ray. And maybe in 10, 20 years they'll create something that surpasses Blu-ray. So I probably might get
It'll be like Red Ray, and it'll be fucking amazing.
No, it'll be Red Ray 4K.
Red 4K.
Or not even 4K, it'll be like 5K or 10K by that point.
It'll be completely digital. It'll just stream to your TV, like from like a satellite on Mars or some shit.
That is true.
So
Maybe
it'll be like Red Ray, fucking 5G LTE, and you're like, whoa.
Maybe like Blu-ray will be the last physical format, considering how the presence of digital and streaming formats have grown in popularity every year.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who predict the death of physical formats due to the digital medium, as far as media is concerned. Yeah. I still like to have physical copies of things. You know, I used to make fun, or I still kind of do, of like old people who like, I gotta have a hard copy of all my files. It can't just be in the computer box. And now I'm the same way about movies. It's sad.
Then there's people like Quentin Tarantino who still VHS tape their shows.
Who the fuck does that?
He does.
Quentin Tarantino!
Because he loves that shitty VHS quality.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if it's brand new VHS, I can kind of see why, but it's like, VHSs don't really age well if you, like, unless you take, like, super good care of them.
Quentin Tarantino
was it August Dragon, Andres, at that Gamera panel was talking about he didn't have, like, a VCR, so he used to, like, make audio recordings of kaiju movies and then listen to them later?
Maybe,
like,
I think so.
What if he still did that? That would be the level of insane that Quentin Tarantino has reached.
That would be weird to try to make a movie into an audio experience. An audio experience.
I mean, it would work great for dialogue-heavy movies, but like action movies would be fucking awful.
Yeah. I mean, even the most popular, one of the most famous radio recordings of War of the Worlds, that mostly relied on dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't hear it. I don't think you heard, like, from last time I heard that, I don't think you really heard, like, any laser sound effects like pew pew pew.
Yeah, it would be a really frustrating experience if you did it with Died, because you would have a ton of dialogue scenes that would be fine, and then a ton of action scenes where you'd be like, what the fuck is happening?
Leave my food alone. It's mine. I brought it from home. Take this, you alien scoundrels. Now I'm imagining this really the amazing movie of just like Orson Welles versus the Martians. No, Orson Welles conquers the Martians.
Santa Claus beat him to that?
Yes, but no, just like recast Orson Welles. I mean, later in his life, he kind of looked like Santa Claus. Just recast him as Santa Claus.
God, I suggest this every year, but one of these days we got to do a commentary on Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Oh, we got to do that.
A Christmas classic. It's right up there. It's right up there with Die Hard and now Jurassic World, with movies that I will watch every Christmas.
Better yet, it's like we need to do. There are two movies we need to see: that and that Mexican Santa Claus movie, the one where like Santa Claus and the wizard Merlin are like have children from all over the world make the toys instead of elves.
Also, can we talk about how fucking weird the fact that Jurassic Park takes place or Jurassic World takes place at Christmas is? Because it's just you hear it.
Oh yeah.
You hear a song in the background at the airport, and that's the only reason you know, because nothing else is going on. And I'm like,
there is snow where the two kids come from.
Wouldn't the theme park put up some like Christmas decorations? Because isn't that a thing?
Yeah, like Disneyland does that.
Like, either this movie takes place at Christmas and nobody gives a shit about Christmas anymore.
Yeah.
Or this movie does not take place at Christmas and that airport has really weird music choices.
That's one possibility.
Well, here's the thing. Maybe it's the same reason. Reminds me of, funny enough, because we were just talking about Back to the Future. Back to the Future 2, they took place in October 21st, 2015. And that's like just, 10 days away from Halloween. So you'd expect the future to have, the future year of 2015, you expect to see Halloween decorations all over the place. But obviously they didn't, because if you think about it, that's just too much of a visual overload for the audience. I mean, you've already got,
That's because they predicted that in 2015 Halloween would be overtaken by Christmas, and it's kind of happening.
I guess so, but it's like, you don't want to confuse the audience already, because you're already showing all this future shit. You don't want to, add on Halloween shit to that visual flair. So maybe it's that's the reason.
That logic makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Then don't play the fucking Christmas song in the airport. Like, you don't need it. It adds nothing to the movie.
Uh-huh.
We could have just assumed that those kids were coming from a snowy place, because they never really tell you where they're from exactly.
They could come from South Park for all we know.
It doesn't have to be fucking Christmas. It could have just been fucking winter.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a weird thing. And I forgot about it until I got the Blu-ray.
Uh-huh.
I watched the Blu-ray. I was like, holy shit, this movie takes place at Christmas. Why?
I don't know. It's weird.
If it was a ploy and they wanted that on there because of people buying the movie for Christmas, then they should have waited to release the movie closer to Christmas. So that's not the reason. It's just fucking weird.
Well, if you think about it, here's another movie that many people don't think about it as a Christmas movie. Iron Man 3.
Yeah, that movie takes place at Christmas.
Yeah.
But you know that there's Christmas shit in the movie, though.
True, yeah, and there's the beginning part where it's Tony Stark was dancing to some Christmas song while he was first trying out the Mark 42 armor.
Yeah, I mean, there's Christmas decorations in places, there's deer,
yeah.
It's very Christmassy, because Shane Black just likes to set things at Christmas. But
that's what I've heard.
There's Christmassy shit in the movie. It's not just there's a random song at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if it had been any other song, like any other holiday. Like, what if it had been fucking Here Comes Peter Cottontail? Like, wouldn't it seem strange that nothing else in the movie seems remotely Easterish aside from the presence of eggs?
I guess so, but then again, not many people really decorate for Easter outside of just the eggs, really.
No, it's true. It's true.
Although that would be interesting to call Old Jurassic World an Easter movie. And would be even more ironic considering the religious, background of Easter.
No, it's true, yes.
And their how dinosaurs tend to contradict everything that the Bible supposedly tells us.
And see, then they could have turned it into a really deep movie where they parallel de-extinction of the dinosaurs with the resurrection of Christ.
Oh, no, dude, like one of the raptors who died in Jurassic World, he comes back on the third day.
Raptor Jesus, yes.
Raptor Jesus, yes. What was it?
Raptor Jesus, the movie.
Didn't what was one of the names? Charlie, didn't Charlie or Delta died?
Yeah, the movie will be called Jurassic Jesus. And
just make
the raptor that got thrown into that fucking hibachi grill will descend to hell and defeat the devil and then come back to Earth.
He fights Devil Dinosaur.
He fights Devil Dinosaur for reasons, and he comes back to Earth, and he becomes the savior of all dinosaur kind, which currently only exists on 2 islands.
And he sort of becomes like a Moses figure. He's like, let my people go.
And then he ascends to... he parts the waters and leads the dinosaurs from Isla Nublar to Isla Sorna, where they can live in a nature preserve. And then he ascends into dinosaur heaven, where he
will come again. He will return again to judge the living from the dead on Judgment Day.
He will come again at some point He will come again on apparently October 29th, 1997, or whenever the fuck Judgment Day was supposed to be in the Terminator universe. He'll come back at some point, but it's really inconsistent as to when, and people keep making predictions about it, and it never comes true. That's a whole other movie. That's Jurassic Raptor.
At the point you got the Jurassic Park version of Left Behind.
Yeah, Jurassic.
But who would be Dinosaur Nicolas Cage then?
Oh my God, who would be Dinosaur Nicolas Cage? It would be
It's got to be like a scary but weird dinosaur, like Carnotaurus with their stubby little four-fingered arms.
I think it should be the raptor from Jurassic Park 3 that said Alan.
Okay, Alan.
And the whole movie, he just goes around saying Alan.
No, he just randomly call out people's names. He's like, "What? Why do you gotta be so crazy and ominous and scary all the time? You could just say hi." Sorry.
I'm just gonna say this: if I turned around and saw a raptor, I would shit my pants immediately because there was a raptor there. But I would shit my pants even more if it said my name. So that's kind of a genius thing on the part of Jurassic Park 3.
On a side note, I do gotta say, I love what Lego Jurassic Park did with that scene, where in that little nightmare, Lego Dr. Grant wakes up and he sees the raptor. He goes, "Alan," and then he sees another raptor with Ellie Sattler's wig going, "Alan," and he sees another raptor with Ian Malcolm's wig and glasses going, "Dr. Grant." So it's, they just like played on with a joke. The
Jeff Goldblum raptor should have been like, that's chaos theory.
Yeah, that would make sense.
You see tiny variations in the scales of my hand.
Now
ensure that the water
Jurassic
a different
Park
way every time.
Now we just need like Jurassic Park from like from the perspective of the dinosaurs, and just remake Jurassic Park, but like the humans are the cloned, are the extinct creatures brought back to life for an amusement park.
One of the things I enjoy about the book is that the Jeff Goldblum character has even more moments of just like explaining shit, and if you picture those scenes in the book as being performed by Jeff Goldblum, it's kind of amazing.
I'd bet.
He's a bigger asshole in the book.
He is. Everyone is a huge asshole.
Like
in
throughout
the book.
like the good second half of the book, he's like, I told you so. I did told you so.
Michael Crichton has had a tendency to write people as assholes, and then movie adaptations kind of have to be like, okay, how can we make these people likable? Because our audience has to get invested in whether or not they live or die. But yeah, and then there's like moments where like Ian Malcolm will just be like, and now I'm going to draw this complicated diagram that you will not understand no matter how many times you read this fucking book.
And over the course of the book, you're just going to see more and more complicated variations of this drawing.
Yeah, because that's chaos.
That is chaos.
One of my favorite moments from the book that involved Ian Malcolm is where he keeps on insisting that he knows the problem has already happened, even though the book doesn't really address it just yet.
Yeah, he just pointed out, it's like, yeah, this is already doomed to fail to begin with.
Yeah. You know, in the movie, when he tries to explain chaos theory, and at the end of the movie you still don't quite get it, but you think, okay, I understand why I don't get it, because they only had like so much movie and they couldn't spend the whole movie explaining chaos theory to me. Mm-hmm. Michael Crichton had an entire book.
Did he have like a couple chapters as well to explain chaos theory?
Where he could have gone into great detail, because novels, the rules are, you can go into great detail. He could have explained chaos theory so clearly, and he tried to. But despite all that, at the end you still scratch your head and go, huh?
Yeah. Now, let's see. I did collect quite a number of news stories, so do you just want to spend the rest of the podcast just quickly going over the events that occurred over the last week or so?
Sure.
Last week, or you mean the last month?
Possibly last month. So just to get this one little story out of the way, were you two guys aware that last week a Gem and the Holograms live-action adaptation came out in theaters?
Yes. I was aware that it was happening. I was not aware that it had already come out. I was aware that it was happening because earlier this year when I was at the theater, either to see Jurassic World or that time that I got dragged to see San Andreas, not sure which, I saw a poster for it. So I knew that this was coming, and I knew that I didn't give a shit about it, but I knew that it was coming.
Well, guess what? The majority of America did not give a shit about it either, Dylan. Because the movie, which was made on an rather cheap $5 million, opened...
Watch it do really well in China.
Oh, that's part of the newscast too, right? The China reception of the movie?
I don't know. I got this from from this Monday.
Because it flopped in China too.
Oh no! Well, the movie,
but
like I said,
China saves everything. They made Terminator Genesis come above water, which actually, if you watch our review, plug, we didn't hate Terminator Genesis, but it flopped so bad.
It also rescued Pacific Rim, which also flopped pretty bad here.
Yeah, because of fucking Adam Sandler. God. Hate America sometimes.
Well, here's the thing. So Gem and the Holograms, there was a movie based on an 80s cartoon about a band that have a double life as like a band while also running a business and also having sci-fi technology to create hologram disguises. It's all
not to be confused with Josie and the Pussycats, which already had a shitty movie.
From what I heard the movie was pretty good, and funny enough, this movie also has that exact same plot that Josie and the Pussycats had, although while Josie and the Pussycats was making fun of that whole do you choose fame or your friends, it made fun of that plot, while here they took that cliche plot extremely seriously with Gem and the Holograms, and everyone hated it. People who were fans of the show, of the cartoon, hated how they just watered it down and took out everything that was interesting about it. And everyone who didn't watch the show, they're like, well, this is just a boring ass generic movie. And
see, this is what they've been doing with 80s cartoons. But you also have this with the Transformers movies and G.I. Joe. Someday there's going to come a time, gentlemen, when they're going to be doing this with the cartoons that we grew up with. Someday in 2030 they'll make a fucking dark ass Man of Steel-esque Powerpuff Girls movie, and I'll be like, shit.
I'd pay to see that.
And they're not going to be made from Chemical X. They're you know what? Better yet, it's going to be the Powerpuff Girls anime that came out a couple years ago, where it's very watered down. The characters barely act like how they did in the original American incarnation. It's just like a very generic, by the numbers superhero magical girl anime, or in this case, a very generic superhero show or a superhero origins team up show movie.
I am rather interested to see what a badass, gritty Powerpuff Girls would look like.
I guess so, yeah. We could use more kick-ass female characters in media. But anyways, do you know how much Gem and the Holograms, the live-action movie, made over the course of 3 days for its opening weekend?
$10 and a ham sandwich.
It made, even though it only costed $5 million, $1.3 million. Meaning that it only made $547 per theater for the entire weekend.
Damn.
And I think it opened 8th place, I believe, or maybe even worse than that.
Did they even publicize it? Because I remember I saw that one trailer. I mean, not trailer.
Poster?
I saw that one poster. I don't remember seeing any trailers or advertisement of any kind other than that one poster. I don't know.
I saw the trailer. The trailer came out online, and that's when people were already giving up hope on the movie. I don't remember seeing it anywhere in any of the movies that I've seen this year, although then again, maybe because most of the movies I went to see were sci-fi action movies, so maybe that's why I didn't see a Gem trailer in theater, but I didn't see any commercials.
I saw a trailer when I was forced to watch Pitch Perfect 2.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh god, you were forced to watch Pitch Perfect 2, you poor bastard.
It wasn't a bad movie, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually surprisingly really, really good. So much so that I had to go and really
I've heard
Pitch Perfect 1 to see.
I've seen Pitch Perfect 1.
I've heard people who liked Pitch Perfect 1 say that Pitch Perfect 2 wasn't as good as Pitch Perfect 1, and I didn't like Pitch Perfect 1, so I didn't have any interest or hopes.
Let's see. There was this really weird marketing campaign for Gem and the Holograms where they were asking for fans to make videos of themselves, singing Gem songs, or sing or talking about how much Gem means to them, and they'll take those clips and put them in the movie. Although, from what I've heard from reviews, it's really badly made because these characters are talking about the Gem cartoon, and you see posters of the Gem cartoon, you see characters dressing up as characters from the Gem cartoon, and it makes no sense in the context of the live-action movie, where it doesn't have any of those, like, logos or characters and whatnot. And if you guys want to know, or even you out there in the audience want to know,
they were asking them to
just make videos of themselves talking about praising Gem, the TV show, and then or just Gem the character, and then they just slapped it into the movie itself. So supposedly in the movie they're talking about the character from the movie, but they're really just talking about the character from the cartoon.
By the way, remember when I just said that I wanted to know what like a gritty ass version of Powerpuff Girls would look like?
Yeah.
Well, thank God for fucking DeviantArt.
Can
always comes through for me.
Oh wow! Holy shit! This is like
instead of superheroes, they have mech suits.
It's like Powerpuff Girls meets Halo.
It's fucking brilliant. Read the description.
I think it says Halo.
You know what this reminds me of? Calhoun from the badass like space marine woman from Wreck-It Ralph.
Yes.
High-powered weaponry, advanced aeronautic propulsion apparatuses, and state-of-the-art cybernetic hard suits. These were the ingredients to create the perfect space ops soldier. But the organization Utonium added a special component to the mix, the volatile Chemical X. Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born, using their superior firepower, long-range, ballistic, and suppression fights crime, and battles the forces of evil.
This is a really fascinating concept, and I would love to see what Mojo Jojo would look like in this universe.
Oh, I imagine he'd be like an ape version of Brainiac.
Yeah. Well, he would need like because he's a monkey. Yeah, he had to be some sort of a lab experiment gone wrong. There's a character in the DC universe called the Humanoid, or the Humanite, something like that.
Yeah.
Who's sort of how you would have to do it, I think.
They'll probably do him the same way they did Dr. Doom and Fantastic.
Oh no. Well, speaking of superheroes, let's talk about superhero news. Specifically, Power Ranger news, where apparently we got not only do we have 4 of the actresses who were announced to play the Power Rangers themselves, but we've also got names for the characters, which are not the classic characters that we originally thought were going to be portrayed in this movie, and we have an official name for the Power Rangers movie.
Okay, they're not going to use the original characters. Then can we make Mesogog the villain? Because at this point, anything goes. So, I would love Mesogog to be the villain.
Well, let's see. First off, the movie itself is not going to be called Power Rangers, but instead it's going to be called Saban's Power Rangers.
Whoa.
This is what kind of, made me want to rant earlier to one of my coworkers.
Okay, you said you had a story, right?
Well, it's not a story. It's kind of a rant.
Sure.
Because because for some reason I just brought up... I randomly brought up the what I'm referring to as Power Rangers. I'm not going to call it fucking Saban's Power Rangers.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're trying to go in the route of Marvel's The Avengers, but nobody calls it that.
Yeah. Yeah,
listen,
but at the same time,
if a title wouldn't sound good in a movie trailer, it's not a good title for your movie. Can you imagine the fucking trailer announcer guy from the 90s is in a world where kids mighty morph, and then at the end of the trailer he's like, Saban's Power Rangers. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Anyways, go ahead, David.
Well, I just randomly brought up Power Rangers earlier today to one of my coworkers.
Yeah.
Just for no reason. Just randomly. He didn't even, ask my opinion. I just brought it up because it was slow at work.
Yeah.
So I told him about so they're making a new Power Rangers movie.
Yeah.
And I told him, you fucked up about that? He's like, what? It's that it's not... They're calling it Saban's Power Rangers, but it's not Saban's franchise, because he's technically ripping off Super Sentai, right?
With permission from Toei, he was able to make Super Sentai its own thing with Power Rangers.
Right. Well, this is where I made my art.
The story is different, the characters are different. Some plot elements may be utilized, but for the most part, it's kind of its own entity. I mean, for instance, look at like Power Rangers in space. The Sentai that it came from, Mega Ranger, was all about like electronics and video games. Yet they made Power Rangers in space like all about space.
Well, and then you have a similar thing with Ginga Man, which they made about space, even though it's a nature.
Well, yeah,
Sentai.
right. Yeah, they made a sequel. They made it carry over the space theme from In Space. Or no,
that was
Ginga Man. Yeah.
I don't know if any of the Super Sentai in Japan have ever actually had a space theme, because that would require too much of a budget. So it's like,
I think like the closest Power Ranger ever got to just ripping off the Sentai was Samurai.
Yeah, there are a lot of moments, from what I understand from Linkaro's history of Power Rangers, there are a lot of moments where the Power Ranger Samurai is just like a word for word translation of the Sentai in a lot of instances.
Yeah, but anyways, go ahead, David.
I'm gonna pitch it to you like I pitch it to him, and okay. I'm gonna use Draco Azul as an example. All right, let's say you made Draco Azul, and it had its own cult following. Here comes this foreign company that says, "Hey, we want to remake it for our audiences."
Right.
They don't do not that much originality. All they do is just change the name Draco Azul to another name and whitewash all the characters and just use all the footage from your show, right?
And then they make a movie called Toho's Big Fucking Blue Robot. And you're like, well...
Like, if you're gonna go that far, at least please...
And for some reason, what I call the bastardization version, which is Power Rangers in this case, is the one that becomes more successful than the original Japanese version.
Yeah, I guess as a creator, I would be kind of pissed off. I mean, even if like I am being heavily compensated for all of this, the fact that my original
getting compensated for Power Rangers, right?
They're not. Well, I thought that they had to at least. I don't know. Did they at least like pay Toei every time they borrow whatever season's amount of stock footage?
They probably have to. Yeah.
The thing about it, though, and I understand your complaint, David, and as somebody who recently has taken a great interest in Super Sentai, Andres can attest to that. As someone who's taken an interest in Super Sentai here very recently, I understand your frustration in that regard. However, they might be kind of justified in this instance because this movie isn't going to use any Sentai footage. So in a way, this is the first time that Power Rangers has been strictly a Saban thing. You know what I mean? Like this is their power. Like this is the only time in the history of the show where this is going to be a version of Power Rangers that is strictly American and is strictly their own.
I mean, for all we know, from all we've gathered, this is strictly going to be based off of the Zyuranger Season 1 Power Ranger aesthetic in terms of like dinosaurs and the colors and whatnot. So it's like, again, like Zyuranger was never that, from what I understand, never that popular as in Japan. It was Japan it was just another season of Super Sentai. So it's like,
really? Because I heard Zyuranger was the Sentai show that reinvigorated the franchise. Because it started declining with Jetman. And all Sentai shows before Jetman too.
That's sad because I really fucking like Jetman. I know that O-Ranger. Was it O-Ranger, wasn't it?
Yeah, O-Ranger, from what Nshoma has told me, O-Ranger was like, that was the point where Super Sentai reached its peak instead of like in terms of like really awesome and like super serious storytelling. And I guess it was like halfway or like at some point halfway into O-Ranger that they decided, okay, this is too dark. We need to go more lighthearted. And that can be clearly seen from like the first O-Ranger quote unquote Megazord and the second Megazord that they used later in the show. Like if you remember the what do you call it in Power Ranger Zeo, it was called the Super Zeo Megazord. That thing was just made out of brightly colored blocks and shit, and it's just like aesthetically different from what came before. So like that was the point where Super Sentai started going the more goofy route.
And now, oh god, it's just a toy commercial. I watched the first episode of Ninja.
Yeah, which it has been recorded that before the show was was eventually aired, you expressed interest in the series.
Well, I loved and I still love the costume design.
Yeah.
Because if there's one regard in which the Super Sentai has remained pretty strong, it's that I fucking love the costume designing in Super Sentai, and I was very happy with the costumes for Ninja. But I watched the first episode, and yeah, it's just a toy commercial, is what it feels like. It's so bad.
I guess that's the direction Toy's going with their Tokusatsu shows now, because Kamen Rider Drive, he has to use toy cars to transform.
So kind of like the Spark Dolls from Ultraman X.
Yeah, and Super Ray is doing that too.
And also the same thing with, what do you call it, Gokaiger.
Well, yeah, Ultraman has the Spark Dolls, and Gokaiger, is that the one that has the
little
Power Ranger
minifigures
thing?
Yeah, those things.
Yeah, everybody's got a gimmick now. There was that whatever version of Kamen Rider it was we watched in Chicago on.
It was W.
With the fucking announcer yelling out the superpowers when they use
Toriga.
And I was like, this is annoying.
Luna.
The announcer for Kamen Rider Drive is even funnier because he's trying to sound American.
Well, that's kind of what they do, right? They just spout out a bunch of English phrases.
Yeah, well, this announcer sounds like "Store your engine."
Oh, no.
Like that.
Well, here's the thing. Lately I've been watching Gundam Build Fighters, and whenever the show
is that good?
Oh, it's very good. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just watched the episode where this one dude brought out a customized version of the Tall Geese, which I think you may have shown to me before. It was like a green version.
Tall Geese.
And for those who don't know, Gundam Build Fighters was essentially, it started out as like a 3-episode OVA. It was called like Gunpla Builders Beginning G whatever. Gunpla is basically
essentially Yu-Gi-Oh with Gundams.
Yeah. It tried to test the waters, and then once that concept was popular, they eventually made a whole new product with Gundam Build Fighters. Yeah, which you mentioned. It's Yu-Gi-Oh with Gundam models, where characters would customize or build and customize their own Gundam models in this universe where Gundam is a fictional property, and they use those Gundam models sometimes just for display purposes, or they use them to actually battle each other. So they would put these like Gundam models in these virtual environments, and they would control them like the characters would in the animes, and have them fight each other in tournaments. And it's awesome because you get to see all these different Gundams from all these different TV shows and mangas and movies, and the characters themselves are really fun and charming in their own unique ways. And in the anime, whenever the characters would place their models in these little virtual reality arenas, you would hear an English announcer, just like who would talk just like how David described, just like trying to spout out like please insert your Gunpla models, like Gunpla fight beginning, battle over. It was just like these. You could really tell this is a Japanese voice actor just trying to sound like English.
What if it had been the announcer from Kamen Rider W, and like you put in your model and he like yells the name of the model?
Oh,
so, like,
that would be so annoying.
So like the guy plays his Tall Geese, and the guy's like Tall Geese, and I'm like, oh shit.
Tall Geese of Valkyrie. That's what it's called, the Tall Geese Valkyrie.
Tall Geese 3, the one that had the Epion whip. Like he describes it.
View the Striker Gundam. Or, but...
Perfect Young, the SD one.
Oh, I just saw also an episode where a character uses an SD Gundam to fight a more, like, a regular proportioned Gundam. It was pretty awesome.
Is it one of the SD Zakos? The SD Zakos?
No, it's an SD Knight Gundam.
Oh god, the SD Zakos are so fucking hilarious in SD Gundam Force. Like,
yeah.
They're one of the things that got me through that show.
Yeah. Also, I've never seen the Ninja mecha until now, and I'm kind of disappointed. Where it's like there's nothing about the mecha that screams ninja.
I still haven't looked at it. I'm gonna do it right now. Ninja.
Okay. Oh, I got a picture. I'll send it to you.
Megazord, which is a contradiction in terms.
I mean,
but whatever.
I think maybe the best. I think the best looking ninja themed Megazord was probably the Shogun Megazord.
Oh, that is just sad. Are they trying anymore? Wait, is that a robot sitting on a throne that is part of the big robot?
Looks like it, because... Okay, I found the individual robots, what they look like, at least like toy versions of them.
This is from Ninja?
Yeah.
That's actually kind of cool.
Here you go. There's the individual Zords, which don't appear to have any theme whatsoever.
They're just giant fucking robots, and you deal with it.
Like, here's robots, they combine...
There's a dog robot?
Looks, or maybe it's a wolf? I don't know.
The Breaking Bone, yeah, the white fucking one is a dog. I remember that from the episode that I saw.
And I guess
it's
this
a dog.
Yeah.
And the red one's just a guy, and then the blue one is a dragon, and then there's a truck thing and a train.
I don't know what this shit is. It's just a toy, so it may not be in the show, but it's like just a giant clusterfuck of
that looks like Kamen Rider Gaim.
It's like, hey, we're gonna make Megas, and I don't know if this was their idea, but it's almost like they decided they were gonna make each Power Rangers Megazord in this series. Or, isn't it me using the word Power Rangers? It was almost like they were gonna make each Ninja's giant robot look like the giant robots from a previous season. Because like you have the red one, it's just a big guy, like in what was it, Kaku Ranger that did that?
Yeah, that was the Ape Zord.
And then you have the one that's a dragon, which is kind of reminiscent of like the Dragon Zord or the Galactabeasts for you Americans from Gingaman. And then you got like a dump truck, and there have been several automotive themed Sentai over the years. You got a dog, that was a thing in SPD, right? And then you got fucking the train, because there was a train one. It's almost like, I don't know if that was their idea, that each one of these Zords is supposed to reflect a previous version of Super Sentai. I am really mixing these American and Japanese terms at my own leisure.
It's like, fuck you, we're Americans. We can do that because we can.
Like, if you're a Japanese person listening to this, I'm sorry. This just makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, I still gotta say, the worst looking mecha / Megazord is easily the one from Tokyuger, which is just like they look, like visually, it looks like just three multicolored trains just stacked next to each other in a vaguely humanoid shape.
Is Tokyuger, that's the train one, right?
Yeah.
I hate their designs.
Power Rangers Thomas Force. No.
How do you pronounce it? Is it Tokuger or Tokuger or Tojuger?
I've heard fans call it Tokyuger.
Like American fans or Japanese fans?
American fans. I mean, this is how they would spell it. Tokyuger.
It's spelled with a capital Q too. So
yeah,
I think that's correct, actually.
Because I don't know what subtitling group I saw this from, but the Q was replaced with a J. So maybe it's pronounced differently in Japanese.
Oh my god, I'm looking at this image. Again, it's just the toy. I'm
seeing an image of what the 6th Ranger for Ninja looks like. Not half bad. You see, these costume designs are pretty good. It's just, I watched the show and I was like, God, no.
Now, what would you
Can we just not?
Let's see.
I don't know how well I don't know how good that dinosaur was from last year, but it's probably not very.
It's a gold one again, just like a samurai, and they even use navy blue, just like samurai. Okay.
Yeah. He doesn't. I mean, if you just glance at him, he almost looks exactly like the yellow one that he's standing right next to.
I guess so. Also, doesn't he look like he's kind of like he's wearing a Mexican style like a cloak around his neck and shoulders?
Yeah, he's got a poncho.
Yeah, poncho.
This is some Ultra Jose shit right here.
He's probably the Super Sentai man with no name.
He's got like a bit of a cowboy theme to his helmet. It almost looked like a cowboy hat.
Maybe they're making commentary about how westerns are so similar to like ninja and samurai stories. But I doubt this show is that smart. But he's even got like a gunslinger belt.
Yeah. He looks. The more I'm looking at this, the more he looks like a cowboy.
Looks like fucking like the Sentai version of Clint Eastwood from that movie.
And now I'm looking at this image, the toy image of, I guess, the big final Tokyuger Megazord, and it's just like more trains stacked on more trains to make this big complicated thingamabob where it's just like trains stacked on trains.
What I find really unique about this team is that there's no Black or Green Ranger.
Oh, right. Yeah, they have like a White Ranger.
Yeah, there's a White Ranger who's not like a 6th Ranger, because usually when there's a White Ranger, they're like the 6th one.
Yeah.
There's just a White Ranger who's just like there, like as one of the female characters. I can only think of the only other example I can think of that is she looks kind of similar to the White Jetman, or the Pink Jetman. I'm not sure which color you're supposed to identify with her, because she has sort of balance of both going on.
Mm-hmm.
But the White seems to be more
pink.
dominant. Is she supposed to be pink? But the White is definitely more... Yeah, but the White is more dominant in her design, though, because like the helmet's mostly white, and like...
Well, I think it's because the pink is more of a lighter color. Because all the other Jetman kind of have a similar level of whiteness around their armor. But I think the pink one kind of stands out the most because the pink color is more brighter than you would expect.
Oh, you would have to look at the 6th Ranger from Tokyuger.
The black Jetman is a badass. I'm just gonna say that because
he's a dick. I can relate to him.
He's such a fucking dick. Oh, how original! He's orange.
I guess he's some sort of traffic or construction worker.
Could be. That could be a plot point. Is that the villain? He looks like a cyber Nazi.
I like to think that he's Mr. Conductor for this series. And he's going to be played by Japanese George Carlin.
He looks like the Terminator joined the SS and now is trying to derail trains, which is what I assume the plot of this show is. And these guys, these Super Sentai heroes, are members of a special train protection force who are here to protect the trains of the world from Terminator Hitler.
And here's a picture of the Orange Ranger's Megazord, which is a construction train, or a train that has a shovel thingamabob. I don't know how to describe this, but it just turns into a big old orange robot, but that admittedly looks better than the actual Megazord itself.
Something about this reminds me of Smokescreen from Transformers Armada, because he was orange and he was a construction robot.
Interesting. Oh yeah, I just realized that we completely moved away from Saban's Power Rangers. Were you finished with your story, David? You mentioned how it's like you're upset that Saban was just taking the Super Sentai thing and making it its own, supposedly making its own thing.
Right. Well, long story short, it shouldn't be called Saban's Power Rangers because going back to, let's say someone remade Draco Azul and called it, let's say Bill Wurster's Big Blue Robot. It's technically not his because he didn't create it, right? He just renamed it and whitewashed the characters that
he used
around
he used the robot, but changed everything around it.
Right, and all the footage that Power Rangers uses is not even theirs. They come from the Japanese footage. I
guess so, but then again, a lot of the times, especially since the Mighty Morphin days, they've been filming more and more of their own original footage. I think RPM used very little of its source material. Because it was I guess it was a more goofier show, and they tried to make RPM into a post-apocalyptic series.
Yeah, RPM, they actually did a lot of their own shit with RPM. That's the one where the villain looks like HAL 9000, right?
Yeah.
Was that when Disney had Power Rangers?
That was the very last Disney season of Power Rangers.
It was supposed to be the last Power Rangers, ever.
Yeah, but then Saban came in, and now we have the rather disappointing Neo Saban era.
So, I'm going to go out on a limb here and just ask a few dumb questions. The Disney produced Power Rangers, those were the serialized shows, right? Not the episodic ones that were on.
I can't remember. I seem to remember the Disney...
Because I do remember one Power Ranger... I can't remember which one it was. I think it was where their boss was this blue dog.
That's a Disney season. That's SPD.
I'm not sure, but I remember that one particular Ranger show was more serialized than episodic.
I think let's see. Maybe the Power Ranger shows from In Space onwards, they seem to take on a more serialized form.
You know what's interesting that I just recently found?
What?
It's interesting. I recently discovered Doggy Kruger, which is actually a character in the original Sentai. But he looks different, and it's weird. Like, he looks more like what the design is like inspired out of. Like, he looks more like a dog, whereas in SPD they made him like an alien who like resembles a dog. Like, I'm gonna get around to watching Deca Ranger at some point, but I'm like, he looks.
So it's like they took the same character but made a completely new costume for him.
Yeah, that's what Disney did. See, this is what he looks like in Deca Ranger.
Let's see. Huh. He looks a bit cheaper than the Disney version.
Well, it is Japan, after all.
True.
He's furrier.
He kind of looks very... Yeah, he looks softer. The one from SPD, Power Rangers, looks a lot more like scalier.
Yeah, he's got scales and shit, and like
more rubbery, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
He has a shorter snout too, which almost makes his Ranger transformation make more sense, but not really.
He has a humanoid shape, a very slim humanoid shape, which, contradicts everything from Power Rangers, or from the suit itself.
Yeah, I was doing some research
here's
into
the Bob
Ranger,
Marley version of that character.
I found out that Doggy Kruger was a character in both. I was like, oh wow, so he was actually footage, and then I looked at it, I was like, oh no, he's not. The Deca Ranger version of Doggy Kruger looks way different. He looks like that werewolf Digimon. Anybody remember the Digimon that looked like a werewolf?
Yeah. Garurumon. Garurumon.
Yeah, Garurumon. What the fuck?
I don't remember this guy. Then again, I haven't watched all of SPD.
The hair that Doggy Kruger's race has in SPD reminds me of like Predator hair, like just like these big thick locks of just like it's essentially big antenna.
Well, I guess now do you think about it, I realize why they would have to make a Japanese version, a new suit off of Doggy Kruger, because this is a character that interacts directly with the American actors or New Zealand actors.
Yeah, but usually it would have been typical of the Disney era that if they had to create a new character to fit in a role that a
Hello?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Did Dillion cut off?
I think we all kind of cut off, and then I don't know, it looks like our call is trying to get back together. I'm just going to mark this down again.
I remember the times where my internet would just conveniently cut off, and then I have to drop off for the rest of the chat.
Well, so far he hasn't completely dropped, so I think we're going to get him back eventually. So, you're still recording, right? This whole time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess just to quickly wrap this up. So, Power Rangers. We have, Saban's Power Rangers, and they announced 4 of the actors who are associated with the movie, one of which, the Pink Ranger, she is played by, let's see, I'm trying to look up her name, Naomi Scott, who was recently in Ridley Scott's The Martian. So, seems rather
I seen that movie, and now that I think about it, I don't remember any part of that movie where she's in. Maybe she was an extra or something.
I guess she was like a very minor character in the crew in Matt Damon's crew.
Probably, because I don't remember her presence anywhere in that movie. The only thing I can think of is she was probably playing this Skype mother. Which, the movie only dedicated 1 minute of screen time only.
Let's see.
So my internet died. That was weird.
Yeah, it was weird, but we were trying to get back on track with the Power Rangers, and we talked about how one of the actors who had a rather minor role in Ridley Scott's The Martian, she was casted as the Pink Ranger. And we have, let's see, the other 3 actors I've never heard of. We've had Dacre Montgomery as the Red Ranger, Luddy Lin as the Black Ranger, so we have an Asian Black Ranger once again, and we have R.J. Seiler as the Blue Ranger, And so we're gonna, instead of a black Black Ranger, we have a black Blue Ranger, if that makes any sense. And so I guess that was an obvious sign that okay, they're definitely going to go in a much different direction with this. They have,
they're casting really unknown actors for these roles because I never heard of any of these people.
Yeah, like even the person, the actor himself, not actor, the director himself, he directed what was it, that time travel movie, Project
Almanac?
Yeah, Project Almanac. I remember his last name is Israelite. I can't remember his first name.
I'm a bit concerned.
Make your jokes. Make your racially insensitive jokes here.
Anti-Semitic jokes could be made at this moment. I will not.
And so let's see. Here are the names for the actual. Oh, we haven't. Surprisingly, we had all these actors announced roughly around the same time, but we still have yet to know who is going to be playing the Yellow Ranger. So I'm assuming maybe they're trying to get a more bigger name, and that's why it's taking so long. At least that's my theory.
Lucy Liu is.
Oh, that would be amazing. How old is she? I mean, well, then again, these people are
too fucking old.
Yeah.
She's old, but she's still hot.
What is she, like 30 or something at this point?
Lucy Liu?
Yeah.
I think she's in her 40s or 50s.
I don't know. Either way, you're right. She still looks hot.
That Japanese actress who was both in Battle Royale and Kill Bill as the Yellow Ranger. I forget her name. The crazy one.
Yeah. They still need to have some level of racial insensitivity. Make the Yellow Ranger, keep her Asian.
You already pulled the 4 kids and made the Black Ranger blue, you know.
Well, then again, we already have an Asian Black Ranger, and I guess by normal American convention, like casting conventions, you can't have more than one. You can't have 2 of the same race. It has to be like you have to have one black guy, you need to have one Asian guy. You can have multiple white guys, but you can't have multiple of the same ethnicity.
Are they going to have that thing in this movie where the Yellow Ranger is supposed to be a girl, but for some reason the morpher grows her a penis?
That would be quite interesting. So anyways,
that would be an interesting plot point. Like, what if they tried to explain it like, there's a glitch with your morpher, and whenever you morph, you'll become a guy.
Hey, well, this explains my deeper voice. No, imagine like a really attractive woman with a very like soft voice, and then when she morphs, she sounds like Don Fry.
I'm sorry, Trini, but whenever you use your morpher, you're going to become a boy named Boy.
So, anyways, here are the names of the new Ranger. We have Callum Oliver, the Red Ranger, Priya Patel as the Pink Ranger, Brian Olsen as the Blue Ranger, Oscar Fernandez, the Black Ranger, and Treyana Jones, the Yellow Ranger.
And some Jewish guy as the Green Ranger.
How you like cheese? And the
Jerry Lewis is.
Jerry Lewis is the Green Ranger with the badness and the hooey and the hooey.
With the dragon sword, he was so into the badness.
You deserve this, you fucking whore. That's what he's going to say to Rita Repulsa. You deserve this, whack! Next thing you know, I'm breaking bones, but they can't feel.
I'm fighting the Power Rangers, I'm breaking the bones, they don't care, they don't need them.
I'm like, fucking walk, you lazy, fucking morph, you lazy bastards.
That would be an interesting character for a Power Ranger in a season. What if you had a Power Ranger who in his day-to-day life was crippled, and morphing allowed him to walk?
Now, that would be... I like that, I like that a lot.
And then he becomes addicted to morphing, and it's like a whole thing.
They did that with the Flash movie.
Really?
Or the movie that they were planning to do, but then they canceled. You know, David Goyer wrote the script. I read it, and that's exactly what they do with the villain of that movie.
Huh? The Trickster? No, it's probably not going to be that.
I forgot.
He's a crippled guy who gets a morpher from a space genie or a space wizard who looks like Dr. Evil. Like that was the plot.
I think it was the Reverse Flash who had that power. He was crippled and the ability to transform into the Reverse Flash made him more, agile and healthy, and he became addicted to it.
Interesting. Of all these names, the one that catches my eye is Callum Oliver, who has the exact same name as Tommy Oliver, the most popular Ranger of all time. So I'm wondering if this is still going to be...
reference? Will his dad be played by Jason David Frank?
That would be
Tune
awesome.
in to find out.
I mean, Jason David Frank is old enough to play a dad, considering he is a father in real life.
He got to be the mentor on a season of Power Rangers. The man has come full circle, and then
I
kept going.
I heard that they were going to make this in continuity with the show,
but they have never given a straight answer yet. So this could be our first clue as to whether or
make
not.
it in continuity with the show, then they need to just make it in continuity with the original series and kind of ignore the shit that came after that.
I mean,
kind of like what the Ultraman manga did.
Yeah, I mean, it's so... Yeah,
the Ultramanga.
Ultramanga, I like that name. I liked it that they would try to just simply make this a complete reboot / adaptation of the first season. Or, yeah, it would probably... I don't know, it'd probably be a little bit more complicated if they were to make this a direct sequel to the first season and ignore everything that came after it. But I guess considering that the first season's the only one that most of pop culture remembers, I guess it wouldn't be so hard for people to imagine this being a direct sequel to the first season and nothing else, because that's the only season that most people outside of Power Ranger fans really care about.
I thought that this was going to be like...
It can be a direct sequel to the fan film Power / Rangers, and I'd be happy.
I thought this was going to be like a direct remake of like the
season 1.
The first incarnations of Power Rangers, basically season 1.
I thought so too.
That's what I had been expecting since they announced the project. But if they want to do it in continuity with the first season, I mean, that's fine. Whatever.
I mean, well, yeah, you'll just have to wait and see in the end. So, anyways, finally moving on, we have, just to get a little bit serious here, we have the someone who has sadly passed away who has contributed a lot into the Godzilla franchise, and that was respected artist Noriyoshi Orai, who was an illustrator or like an artist who created several international posters to things such as Star Wars, Mad Max, The Goonies,
all of those badass Heisei Godzilla posters are
Metal Gear Solid, but most importantly, the Heisei posters for the Godzilla series, starting with The Return of Godzilla from 1984, all the way to Godzilla Final Wars in 2004. So for 20 years, he made posters for all of these Godzilla movies. Not so much for the Millennium movies. For the Millennium movies, he only worked with Godzilla vs. Megaguirus and Godzilla Final Wars. But yeah, he has, in my personal opinion, created the best posters for the Godzilla series. I mean,
my favorite Godzilla poster of all time, it's actually the wallpaper on my phone and has been for a while, is the poster that he did for Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. Something about the composition of it and the way it looks, it's just a fucking beautiful poster. And it has
even though Mechagodzilla looks nothing like in that poster.
I'm thinking to myself,
but he looks way more badass in that poster.
I know,
admittedly, yeah. I'm assuming that he must have made these posters, like that and the Biollante poster. You can tell that he made those like during like the early concept work pre-production phase of those movies.
Yeah, you know, the design of Mechagodzilla that's on that poster, which I wish is the one that was in the movie, is very 70s Mechagodzilla.
That's true, yeah.
Face looks very 70s Mechagodzilla. It's got like that grill thing on the neck that 70s Mechagodzilla had going on. The fingers have guns on the ends. Like Mechagodzilla 1. So I think he based that off of the original Mechagodzilla. And I wish to God that they had used that design in the movie because it's fucking amazing.
Yeah. There's a lot going on with that design. I really like. They also portrayed Rodan like with ripped up wings, which looked pretty badass.
Yeah, Rodan looks really good on that poster too.
Yeah. My favorite poster of all would also like this poster of his, which is also my favorite of all time, was the poster to Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Simply just, I love how King Ghidorah is wrapped around Godzilla. He's just struggling. Like, you can just tell King Ghidorah just like has these massive proportions in order to just like put Godzilla in this epic pose. I mean, if you think about it, the posing of King Ghidorah's pose doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it just still looks really nice. And my second favorite, easily following that one, is the poster to Godzilla vs. Biollante, since I just love how Biollante looks in that. in that poster again, just like King Ghidorah, but just bigger and just taking up the entire space. And I remember one of my earliest memories with Godzilla was searching for VHSs at Hollywood Video and Blockbuster. And I remember coming across Godzilla vs. Biollante on VHS at a Hollywood Video, and I just remember being absolutely enamored with the poster art on that, because this was
I
the
wish that they had put.
Yeah.
I wish that they had put that cover on the recent DVD release.
Oh yeah, all the DVDs and Blu-rays, as opposed to the more photoshopped posters that they use for their DVD covers. But yeah, I grew up loving these posters. I ought to get one of these posters. I had 3 Godzilla posters in my room right now, but none of them are from this guy. But I should get one of them in the near future. But for you guys,
I saw some of them at G-Fest, but they were super fucking expensive.
Oh yeah,
I wanted to get one. I wanted to get the Mechagodzilla one, because if I had a physical copy of that, I would be very happy.
Yeah,
but,
I saw that. Remember at G-Fest, Dylan, where there was a gigantic ass poster of Godzilla versus Megaguirus that he did?
Yeah.
It's like once you walked into the dealer's market, like you look to the left and it's right there. I'm like, that is an amazing poster. I just wish that poster was made for a better movie.
Wow, I don't know what the. I'm just looking at the images in this article that you shared with us. I don't know what the context is of this image, but that one that he did of Mazinger Z is pretty badass.
Let's see.
Really, at least I think that's Mazinger Z. It could be some other Mazinger. I don't know. Again, I know there have been different versions. It's like after the Godzilla ones, there are.
It's Mazin Saga, which is kind of like I think it's some sort of remake or like alternate retelling of Mazinger Z. But yeah, it is connected to the franchise. Just gonna do a quick search to see what Mazin Saga was.
I had no idea that this guy did all the artwork for Godzilla, and I had no idea he did the artwork for a bunch of Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. Like here's I'll send you a link to the poster that he made for Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes.
Oh, I was about to send that one. Yeah, that's one of my favorite Metal Gear artworks.
Mm-hmm.
If I have one complaint about the Biollante, if there's one complaint I could make about the Biollante poster that he did, I think Godzilla's proportions are a little weird in it. Like he looks super chunky in that poster, and he didn't get that chunky in the movies until Space Godzilla. So,
Oh, and I just realized I just searched this up. The that alternate version of Mazinger Z, of Mazin Saga, is basically a retelling where instead of Mazinger Z being a robot, he's just some like demonic warrior that's made to fight evil.
That sounds badass. It sounds like if Mazinger Z had Devilman's origin.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly how the Wikipedia page describes it. It's just a combination of Mazinger Z and Devilman. In terms of like
the
mixing
perfect
the
thing
themes.
for you, Andres.
Yeah, and possibly every other Go Nagai fan out there. Although from what I hear, it is the manga was made from 1990 to 1992 and was left unfinished to this day. Oh well.
I've never really looked at this guy's Star Wars stuff before, but it's pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, absolutely magnificent.
Good on you, dead Japanese guy whose name I can't pronounce because I'm terrible with Japanese names.
Yeah,
what was it?
Noriyoshi Orai.
Yeah, Noriyoshi Orai. Yeah, Orai. Noriyoshi
I was close.
Orai.
Oh, you know what? His Space Godzilla poster?
Mm-hmm.
Also pretty badass.
Oh, yeah.
The movie does not do the poster justice.
Yeah, so even though his name is not as well known as, say, Shiro Honda or Eiji Tsuburaya or Haru Nakajima, his work has certainly left a lasting impression on all of us as Godzilla fans, and will certainly continue to inspire and invoke a sense of awe and wonder for new fans for many years to come. So, just a little moment of silence for Mr. Orai.
I think the only other person I've ever seen whose work compares to this is Eggleton.
I was thinking more of a Drew Struzan, the guy who did like the original Star Wars poster art, and as well as did a lot of other stuff.
Oh, I was thinking of his Godzilla stuff specifically, but.
Oh, right, yeah. He has like a very detailed, lifelike look to them.
What's interesting is that he chose to make each of the Ghidorah's heads in that one poster. Each of them have a different color like plasma beam coming out of their mouths.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a reason for that. Like, it's always struck me as interesting.
Yeah, and it looks like we'll never, not like we were ever going to get a chance, but it's like we'll never know. we'll never find out why.
I don't really like the Mothra poster that he did, though.
That one was rather weird.
The one for Battle for Earth. Like, Godzilla looks really good, and the Mothra larvae look really good in it, but then the adult Mothra, like, the head is too small, and the wings are too big.
And the arms are freakishly large.
Yeah, not only big, but the wings are kind of positioned in a strange way.
Yeah, it's like they're not really doing any sort of posing, they're just standing in front of like an invisible camera who's taking a family portrait.
But the biggest problem with it is it needs more Batra. And by more Batra, I mean it
True.
needs some Batra.
Also, why do you think he drew two Mothra larvae? I mean, was he working off an older script of the movie? Like, what was it, like Godzilla versus Gigamoth, where it was originally like Godzilla versus two twin Mothras, and one of the twin Mothras mutates into Gigamoth, aka the creature that would become Batra?
Possibly. He could also have been trying to harken back to the 1964 version of Mothra versus Godzilla.
It could be, yeah. So that always
an attempt to attract people.
Yeah, but that always always confused the shit out of me growing up. I'm like, why is there two? For years, I would think that would be the poster to 1964 Mothra.
Yeah, and then you would think, why does Godzilla look so good in this poster?
Maybe they always invited him early on in the concept before they decided on, the final script and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, that after all, that would explain why there would be why Mechagodzilla looks so different. Mechagodzilla and Biolante's rose form looks quite different from how they look like in the movie. Also,
weren't his posters weren't they always revealed first before like the live action posters?
I'm assuming that's the case. Yeah.
If that's the case, then he was brought on board early on before even the final draft was written.
Yeah.
Even Godzilla Jr. from Space Godzilla,
who
I guess we might as well call fucking Minya, because that's who he is in that fucking movie.
Yeah. I thought he was trademarked as Little Godzilla for that movie.
Was he?
I
don't know.
Yeah.
But he looks actually a lot better on the poster than he does in the movie.
I definitely agree with that. Also, I just noticed that with Godzilla...
He looks the same!
No, he doesn't!
No, he doesn't.
Yeah,
his eyes are not freakishly huge!
He just looks like a mini Godzilla on the poster, and the only thing that's oddly proportioned about him is the head. One that's in the movie is just Minya. It's what the fuck it is. It's just Minya. They can call it whatever the fuck they want to call it. It's just fucking Minya.
Also, I just noticed that on the poster for Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, there is a submarine shooting a nuclear warhead into the sky. That's like right below Godzilla's feet. I mean, it's a very interesting visual element that obviously is like a callback to the nuclear background of Godzilla, but it's like, yeah, that never happened in the movie. I mean, there's a submarine, but it never launches anything.
I wish this guy had done like a poster, even if he hadn't been paid to do it, just like for shits and giggles. It would have been really cool to see what he would have done as a G2014 poster.
No, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. I'm sorry, what was that, Dylan?
I said I wish this guy, before he had done, I wish that they had gotten him to do like an alternate Japanese poster for G2014, just because I would have wanted to see what he would have done.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that he also did a poster for Ultraman, or Ultraman Power to be exact, that American remake of the Ultraman 66.
Which one is the Australian one?
Ultraman Great.
Or also known as Ultraman Towards the Future.
Right.
I mean, that's what it's known in Australia, and for some reason, Super 8 just renamed it Ultraman Great when they released it in Japan.
Yeah, just like the American Ultraman. I have the poster. I'll share it to you in this link right here. It looks beautiful.
That's a badass poster. I just found it. Look at fucking Red King.
Yeah. I love this.
Did he look that good in
this was
show?
Official artwork?
Yeah. That's how he looked like in the show, basically. All the suits look beautiful, except because they were so fragile and so detailed, they could barely move or they can barely fight the way they did in the Showa Ultraman shows.
So basically, the fight scenes are slow.
Yeah, the fight scenes are the closest that Ultraman ever comes to punching someone is either lightly shoving them or lightly slapping them.
This is why I don't mind the CG approach that it looks like Super A is going to be taking in the future with that trailer that we got.
Yeah.
Because with the CG, you can have like monsters that look this fucking cool, like in terms of just their design, but also can like move.
Yeah.
So did this guy also do the artwork for Ultraman Great?
Powered. Because this American-produced Ultraman show, which ironically enough never aired in America, it was called Ultraman the Ultimate Hero, but just like Ultraman Great, it was renamed in Japan as Ultraman Powered.
No, I'm asking this because, actually, never mind, it doesn't look like his artwork, but there was a similar artwork that they did where it's Ultraman and all the monsters in that show are kind of like assembled into one piece of artwork.
Now, what was the problem with the Australian Ultraman show? What was there something bad about it?
There was nothing really bad about Ultraman. Ultraman Towards the Future. I mean, I know David's quite a big fan of it, and I like the show too. I just don't like the fight choreography. I mean, it's a lot better than Ultraman, the Ultimate Hero or Ultraman Powered, but I just think it's kind of slow, too slow for my taste.
I have heard no negative reviews about Great. I've heard a lot of shit about Powered.
Yeah, like people love, I've heard people like to talk shit about Powered, but I think the most I've ever heard out of Great is that people think it's underrated, and I would understand why.
Now, did he do the artwork for Great too? I just sent the link.
Oh, okay. Doesn't look like his art. Yeah, definitely doesn't look like his art.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is a bootleg?
Fan art.
Sure, we'll go with that.
It's definitely
no, it's fan art. It's not a bootleg.
But why does it say the complete series DVD?
Well, it's fan art because it's one of those like what ifs. What if it was released for DVD?
It looks like the cover to like an '80s video game.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Ultraman Great was also turned into a video game.
Oh yeah, that's one of the few things that ever came to America was the Ultraman Towards the Future video game, which has gone down in history as one of the worst fighting games ever for the Super Nintendo.
Yay!
Okay,
bad video games.
Yeah, we didn't get the Ultraman Fighting Evolution games, but we got Ultraman Towards the Future for the Super Nintendo. So let's see. Moving on from deceased artists, we have Doctor Who related news, where Doctor Who's one of the Doctor's most famous companions, K9, is going to get his own movie in K9 Timequake in cinemas 2017. Take it away, Dylan.
Okay, so
you're about to Hulk out.
They may have done a decent job with their adaptation of Ultraman, but for some time now, Australia has had a really shitty K9 show.
Yeah.
Because, and I think this is the reason, because like the Daleks, K9 is not owned by the BBC. It is owned by the guy who invented K9, whose name I forget at the moment. Mm-hmm. And unlike the estate of Terry Nation, the people who own the Daleks, who are just like, hey, BBC, you just keep using them in this show and we'll rake in that Doctor Who money. The guy who owns K9 seems to want to squeeze every bit of money out of this fucking robot dog that he possibly fucking can. So we have a shitty show from Australia, and now they're doing this movie. I don't know if it's connected to the show or not, but I'm not very hopeful.
So far,
and
every single...
They're bringing back...
Yeah.
According to news, they're bringing back Omega, who is like a huge fucking deal in classic Doctor Who. He's a major villain. He only appeared in 2 episodes, but he has like huge effects on the... Well, when I say 2 episodes, I mean 2 stories, because classic Doctor Who has that whole serialized thing.
Yeah.
So he was in the 3 Doctors, which is 4 short episodes, and then he's in another story from the Fifth Doctor's run called The Arc of Infinity. I'm not really sure how many parts that one has. But anyway, he's from 2 stories in Classic Who, and he's a big fucking deal. And ever since Doctor Who, well, not ever since Doctor Who got rebooted, because I wasn't aware of Doctor Who's existence at that time, ever since the first time that I saw the 3 Doctors, the episode that he premiered in, I have wanted them to bring him back into the new series. Mm-hmm. The same goes for Sutekh from Pyramids of Mars, great villain. Anyway,
yeah.
I wanted him to return, and now he's returning in this fucking movie. In this fucking shitty ass, or at least it looks like it's going to be a shitty ass K9 movie. Mm-hmm. And at least it's not a BBC production, so whatever they do is not going to be in continuity with Doctor Who, and thus they can use Omega, and then later on down the line, BBC can reuse Omega however they see fit. I don't even know how they're getting Omega in this movie, because again, I don't think the same guy who owns K9 owns Omega, so he must have got permission from the BBC to use it or something. But long story short, this is gonna suck.
So you don't think this
the tagline is gonna be affirmative?
So this is really not going to be in continuity with Doctor Who, as far as we know?
It's not a BBC production, so...
Okay. And BBC owns Doctor Who.
Yes, I'm assuming that the BBC would like to distance themselves from it. But no, it's not going to be in continuity because it's not a BBC production. So
The only thing that kind of gives me... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I mean, BBC had their own version of K9 that's in continuity anyway, because he came back in that second season episode. Yeah. The Doctor reunites with Sarah Jane, and then he's in the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah. And then the show abruptly ended, so we never knew what happened to K9 ultimately.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure there's an audio drama of some kind out there.
The K9 in this Australian show has a different design.
Right.
And the one that they have revealed for the movie looks like that one. So looks more like that one than he does the class.
The TV show?
Hold on. Yes. Now you see how this K9 has those 2 legs that extend in the front?
Yeah.
Whereas classic K9 was just like
a block?
Yeah, a block that rolls around. And see, this K9 on this poster for the TV show has those 2 little legs that extend down.
Yeah.
And then the one that they're showing that's going to be in the movie also has that. So I'm pretty sure that it connected to the show in some way due to that similarity. I found the picture. Hold on.
Let's see. How long did that show last? I mean, is it still going on, or was it eventually canceled or ended?
I don't even know.
Oh, let's see.
I don't even want to know. If it's lasted longer than Sarah Jane, then there is cause to be sad in the world.
Oh yeah, there is definitely a lot of similarity between between this new K9 and the TV K9. Let's see. The show.
The legs that extend in the front. It's got the visor sort of. It's got the same kind of visor that has the lines going across. It's got the things on the sides of the head. It's got the K9 in the same. It looks It's just an updated version of that design from the show. So I'm pretty sure that they're connected.
So it lasted 1 season worth 26 episodes from October 31st, 2009 to November 20th, 2010.
It is available to watch on ShoutFactoryTV.com. So if you ever find yourself morbidly curious, you can go check that out.
Yee.
Or not. Or you could just not.
The only thing that gives me any sort of hope for this movie is that the film is being written by Bob Baker, one of K9's original creators, who I'm assuming is the guy behind all this shit, and one of the minds behind the Wallace and Gromit animated shorts, as well as the Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit movie. And I like Wallace and Gromit, so who knows? Maybe this could be good? Maybe? I don't know. Like I said, like I usually say, only time will tell.
You better not have to watch the fucking show to understand the movie, because if so, I'm screwed, because I'm not watching that fucking show.
So, David, what do you think about all this, considering that you're also a much bigger, more experienced Doctor Who fan than I am?
I honestly don't care. I'm probably not even going to watch it.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, How many episodes is this character Omega in? Was he ever in New Doctor Who?
No, he has not been in New Who yet. I wish they would bring him into New Who. He is in The Three Doctors, which is one of the classic episodes that's available to watch on Netflix. You can go check that out. It's a great episode. It involves the John Pertwee Doctor teaming up with Patrick Troughton and William Hartnell, who's only in a few scenes because he was very sick at the time of the filming. And so he only has a few scenes where he appears on the monitor. So essentially, even though it's called The Three Doctors, it's essentially just Pertwee and Troughton
2.5
for the
doctors.
majority. Yeah,
Two and a half doctors.
Doctors. Yeah, so they just like do shit. And but anyway, it's a good episode. It's a classic episode. Omega is this really important character to the mythos of Doctor Who. He was this ancient Time Lord who essentially invented the time travel that the Time Lords use. So without him, the Doctor would not be running around time and space. And then he gets trapped in this small parallel universe that's made entirely out of antimatter, and he becomes essentially a god because he has the ability to manipulate this universe that he's trapped in using the power of his mind. But the more time he spends there, his body deteriorates, so he no longer has a body. He's just like a consciousness living and walking around in like a suit of armor, and he wants to escape back into the normal universe, but he can't because he doesn't have a body. And that's essentially his character arc. And then later on, there's a Fifth Doctor story called The Arc of Infinity, where he tries to steal the Fifth Doctor's body, from what I understand. I haven't seen that one, so I don't really know the details. But he's only in...
Is that him?
He's only in those two stories. Yeah, that's him. He's only in those two stories, and then he gets mentioned in other places. Like they'll have like an artifact called like the Hand of Omega or some shit like that, and that's who they're referring to.
Okay, sounds like a very interesting character.
Now we know where Josh Whedon got his inspiration for Ultron.
He and Rassilon, who did appear in New Who in The End of Time, he and Rassilon, Timothy Dalton, were sort of from the same era. They're the ones who sort of like set up Time Lord society as we know it and shit. So they're like the two most like influential Time Lords in like Time Lord history. The only difference is like Rassilon's still around, and Omega was thought to be dead until the Doctors discovered him trapped in his parallel universe.
So, let's see. Moving on from Doctor Who. Oh, I just want to say one last thing about this news is that, for at least like the few articles I've read about K9 Timequake, they don't really seem to acknowledge the fact that there have been other K9 related TV shows, and there's like, oh boy, this is a new spin-off from Doctor Who. This is gonna be great. And it's like, it doesn't really give any full backstory as to like this being the latest in a line of K9-centric spin-offs.
Now, I don't know if you're aware, Andres, but they are making another Doctor Who spin-off.
Really?
The BBC is. It's starting next year. They're doing a series that's called School, and it takes place at the Coal Hill School, which is where Clara teaches in season 8. Also, it's an important also because the whole reason Clara teaches at Coal Hill School in season 8 is a big reference because the Doctor's first two companions back in the 60s were teachers from that exact same school.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I digress. Anyway, they're doing a show called School, and essentially it's going to be a group of kids at this school who will encounter various Doctor Who type situations. Yeah, so like alien shit and whatnot.
Yeah, and the badness and the hooey and the hay.
Yeah.
So,
and that starts... Let me see if I can find out when that starts. It's 2016, but I thought we had an actual date. But I'm having trouble finding it.
Okay.
So next year, some point.
Okay.
School, new spin-off. We'll see how far they can stretch that premise. when they couldn't even get more than like 3 or 4 seasons out of Torchwood, which actually had a premise that I could see them doing a long show from.
Okay. So let's see. Moving on to our last story for the podcast. How many of you, just not many, but are either of you familiar with an animator by the name of Don Bluth?
Yes. He did Land Before Time, didn't he?
Yep. He also did Secret
and
of NIMH.
Troll in Central Park. And
Yep. All Dogs Go to Heaven.
We're Back, a Dinosaur Story.
I think he made that. I'm not sure, but basically he was a very influential animator. He was an artist. He was a former artist of Disney who eventually left, and he ended up making his own series of movies that were almost like Disney in quality, were probably even better than what Disney was pumping out back during that era. But
he did Anastasia, and I remember always really
yeah,
liking that movie.
I think,
thinking it was way better than the stuff that Disney was putting out at the time.
and I think the last project he worked on was a movie called Titan AE, which was one of the biggest theatrical bombs, I believe, and kind of ended his theatrical career.
Yeah, and it's sad because that was a decent movie.
And so this guy,
if you ever remember like having old like VHSs in the 90s and seeing like commercials for these cartoon movies that kind of looked Disney but weren't, like Thumbelina, Pebble, or Pebble Penguin, or Pebble and Penguin.
And I ended up getting the majority of those VHSs.
Or Rockadoodle. He's that guy.
He made all three of those ones that Dylan just mentioned. Well, he was also known in 1983, I believe, for working on an arcade game, quote-unquote arcade game called Dragon's Lair. I'm not sure if either of you have heard about this, but Dragon's Lair was essentially an animated movie where certain icons would flash on screen, and so you would have to push the right button at the right time in order for the main character, who is like this, who I believe his name is Dirk the Daring, who is like this knight, and he's saving the Princess Daphne from this big old dragon. And so he's basically, you press the buttons. If you press the wrong button, you see an animated sequence of Dirk dying, or a death sequence of Dirk, falling into a trap or getting turned to a skeleton, or eaten by a monster, what have you. So you press the right button, you memorize all the signals, or all the flashing indicators, and eventually you beat the game. And so now Don Bluth is has launched a Kickstarter to make a Dragon's Lair movie, a full-on animated movie. However, I believe he's raising money not to make the movie itself, but to make a trailer in order to pitch to a larger studio to make a full-on movie. And a lot of people who grew up in the 80s who loved Dragon's Lair, or just a bunch of big Don Bluth fans, are really excited over the possibility of a Dragon's Lair movie. Let's see. I haven't actually looked at what Dragon's Lair, how the Kickstarter is doing right now, but I can easily check right now. But I'm not sure if a studio would be willing to make a movie out of Dragon's Lair, especially like if it's a traditionally animated movie. Because, after all, traditionally animated movies are so far and few between nowadays. I mean, the only ones I can think of off the top of my head that have gotten a theatrical release are either the Studio Ghibli Miyazaki movies, or like Once in a Blue Moon from Disney, like the 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie or Princess and the Frog.
Is this separate from the 1981 Dragon Slayer movie?
I'm assuming so, because Dragon's Lair has always been a video game, at least the one associated with Don Bluth.
Because you say he used to work for Disney, right?
Yeah.
And this movie, Dragon's Lair, was also produced by Disney.
No. Oh, okay. Maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe it's a coincidence?
Andres, do you know if this guy did that movie Quest for Camelot?
I don't think so, because it doesn't look like his style. I can easily look up on his filmography on Wikipedia.
Oh, Dragon's Lair. I thought you said Dragon Slayer.
No, Lair.
My bad. Sounded like Dragon Slayer. I heard the wrong word.
I don't think that was him now that I'm looking at it. I just remember that being another one of those movies that like would appear like in VHS. Like that trailer was on my VHS for Batman and Robin back in the day.
Oh, he worked on Pete's Dragon. I love that movie.
Oh, Don Bluth worked on Pete's Dragon?
Yeah, he worked on Pete's Dragon.
Now that you mention it, Pete's Dragon does have that Don Bluth kind of look. There's a certain look, like a way that like faces of the characters look. I'm not sure if he was the guy behind Fern Gully or not.
Let's see. No, I'm not seeing it here.
But according to Google, though, he did make that Fern Gully spin-off movie, Bartok, the Magnificent.
Oh, that was an Anastasia spin-off.
That's right, Bartok is I'm getting the bat from Anastasia mixed up with the bat from Fern Gully.
Yeah, who was voiced by Robin Williams.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Bartok was the bat who was like the Iago to Rasputin.
Yes, great villain, Rasputin.
I like his design.
Great guy.
He's Russian Jafar, essentially.
He has that great song in the middle.
Yes, I love that one. Yeah, he was voiced by Jim Cummings for that one musical sequence.
Disney is famous for its villain songs, but then Don Bluth had two, as far as I know, really good ones in Rasputin's "In the Dark of the Night" and in the second "All Dogs Go to Heaven" movie. The devil was in it, who is a cat.
Yeah,
and he has this song called "It Feels So Good to Be Bad."
I seem to remember that one. Yeah,
that one always stuck with me. I agree with it. Anyway,
Dragon Slayer. Oh yeah, I remember a couple years back. I think it was my junior year of high school. I remember looking up I first heard of Dragon Slayer through an issue of Game Informer magazine, where Dragon Slayer, the game, was released on Blu-ray. I thought, oh, that's interesting for a supposed game to be released on Blu-ray, but I suppose it is technically a movie-ish, so there's not really, you don't really play it like a traditional video game. So yeah, it is available on Blu-ray. I'm not sure if the Blu-ray is still around today. And I think the last thing of trivia I know about is that Princess Daphne herself, was based off of, I think, a Playboy model of some kind. And if you look at images of Princess Daphne from Dragon Slayer, you can definitely tell that Don Bluth was very paid attention to detail, if you know what I mean.
I don't give two shits about this Dragon Slayer thing, but I hope it happens because I really want Don Bluth to get back into doing shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially like your typical fantasy medieval knights and sorcery and dragons type of game. So it's like, yeah, who wouldn't want to see Don Bluth work with that type of setting and backdrop?
Don Bluth deserves. He is an example of a career that deserves more than it has. I think. I think the guy's very talented, and he should have his own studio, man.
I think right now the last I heard about from him was that he was teaching newer animators at some university or some art college.
No, Don Bluth, you need to get back in the game. Those who can't teach. You can do, man.
Well, right now it is Okay, so as of what's it, October 29th, 2015, there have been 999 backers who have pledged over $91,000, and the Kickstarter needs to reach $550,000 in order to be successful, and there are 26 days to go. So if this sounds like something you are interested in, dear audience, then you're free to back this project.
However, given that time constraint and the amount of money that still needs to be raised, it doesn't appear that it's going to happen.
And the fact that this is
So be aware that if you do pledge, you are probably wasting your money.
Well, not really, because if a Kickstarter fails, then that money automatically gets sent back to you.
Or does it? I don't know. I've never kickstarted anything.
Yeah, that's the important thing to know about Kickstarter, where it's like if it doesn't happen, if it doesn't reach the goal, then that money goes right back to you. So the people get none of it.
So if I was gonna participate in if I was gonna give money to a Kickstarter,
yes,
I would kind of hope that it would fail, because I would get my money back, but I would still get to say, yeah, I support independent artists.
That is true. That is true, I guess. And you won't be shamed like in South Park.
Yeah, it's a status thing,
It's a status. Yeah. All right.
It'll make me look good. And then my town can get a Whole Foods. It'll be great.
True. David, your thoughts on Dragon Slayer the movie, or the Kickstarter to the movie? Or
honestly,
your opinions on Don Bluth in general?
Well,
Are you turning to Mr. Bean all of a sudden? Are you secretly Rowan Atkinson?
Why,
something else I'll say about Don Bluth.
Yeah.
He made a princess, and she wasn't useless. Long before Disney started having proactive princesses in their movies, Don Bluth had Anastasia, who was did shit in that movie, man. She was feisty.
Yeah.
She finishes Rasputin off at the end, man. She's a badass woman.
That is true. Anyways, David?
And
oh, sorry.
And he killed Littlefoot's mom on screen, not off screen like a pussy.
He had balls, I'll give him that.
Man's got great big balls.
Alright, so nothing from you, David?
Nah, honestly, I could care less. I don't want to sound like a dick, but you know.
So what you're saying is you want this Kickstarter to fail. Is that right?
Yes.
So you do not want to support independent artists.
I want this Kickstarter to fail only if I give money to it.
All right then. So let's see. Is there any news that you guys have heard about that you want to bring up before we end the show?
Well, no.
Have a good day.
Wait! Aren't we forgetting a certain turtle? A certain turtle who is not a member
of... You're right. I completely forgot about that.
Team, but a different mutant turtle. The original mutant turtle, depending on who you ask.
Right, of course. How can I forget? Godzilla vs. Kong was recently confirmed to be an actual thing for 2020.
Not what I was talking about.
But, okay, so yeah, we on the last episode of the SOS, we went to great length talking about that movie and our thoughts about what would happen if that movie happened. Now we know for a fact that it is happening, but I guess our thoughts on it kind of remain the same. So if you want to know our thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong, you can refer to the previous episode. But yes, Gamera, he's coming back. I don't know when, but we had a concept trailer that was revealed at New York Comic Con a couple weeks ago.
Him and Ultraman both are coming back.
Yes.
Him and Ultraman are both coming back with badass concept trailers, and we have no idea when the fuck it's happening.
Right. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be a year down the line, 2 years. I don't know if they already have the funding, or if this is a trailer to pitch to someone somewhere to fund the movie. All we know is that we have a director whose name I already forgotten because I don't know anything else he's worked on of any significance. But
all we know is that it's coming back. We don't know when, and we certainly don't know how much longer after it comes back that we'll get to see it here in America.
Right.
Which is a sad thing about it all.
I mean, look, for God's sakes, look how long it's taken for Evangelion 3.0 to get a DVD Blu-ray released, even though that movie was released like 2 or 3 years ago at this point.
I mean, look at Attack on Titan. It was released about a month after its Japanese release here in America.
That is very true. But then again, Attack on Titan is very huge, so the producers of that film is just like working off of the cultural zeitgeist. They're kind of just riding the wave of popularity at the moment.
I haven't watched either of those Attack on Titan movies yet. I heard that the first one wasn't very good, but is the second one any better?
I have not seen the second one. He's seen the second one. I did not like the first one. You were praising the second movie on Facebook a lot. Not a lot, but you were praising it.
I gave it a high rating. Yeah, but the first one was really, really lackluster. It sucked, but I guess I kind of misjudged it because I was judging it as just one film. Mm-hmm. When it's really like The Hobbit. They split it into 2 parts.
Yeah, but even still, The Hobbit, at least the first 2 movies worked as their own thing. Like, they had enough content, they had enough shit going on to justify it as their own individual movies.
Right, and I feel like Toho, they intentionally split the movies into 2 parts just to get a quick cash grab. Mm-hmm. Like you said, they're just riding the popularity thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Hobbit metaphor is still valid because they didn't need to stretch the Hobbit into 3 movies.
True. Yeah, definitely true. Especially when
the third movie being The Hobbit, the bloating of the 5 pages.
Right.
And similarly, I don't know if Attack on Titan needed to split this up into 2 movies.
Yeah, although it's very...
Actually, it didn't, because the first part, there were so many things that they could have cut out.
Yeah,
that seemed unnecessary.
Yeah. It just feels like it goes on, like, all the Titan shit looks really cool if you can tolerate the rather iffy green screen effects, whenever the Titans and humans interact with each other. But other than that,
based on what I've seen, especially the shots of the Colossal Titan, and then like that Ultraman trailer and this Gamera trailer, Japan is entering a new like stage of CG, and it looks really good.
Yeah, that's interesting you would say that, because of course you have those like kaiju purists out there who didn't like the Gamera trailer, mostly on the fact that it looks like it's all CG. And I've heard this complaint before, that people say, oh, it looks like a video game. I've never truly understood that comparison, especially considering how video games nowadays are attempting to look more cinematic. So I don't know why people would say, "Oh, it looks like a video game." What exactly do they mean by that? Or do they say that because
they're probably meaning like PS2 GameCube graphics or something?
Yeah, it's just
some people are just against the idea of the kaiju genre moving into the digital medium. I was never quote unquote against it. I was for a while iffy about it, but now that we live in the post Pacific Rim and Godzilla 2014 universe, yeah, do it, man.
But like, unfortunately, this is Japan, where they don't exactly have the best CGI available. And
they didn't back in the day when they made like Godzilla 2000, and those underwater swimming scenes were just the worst. But now the shit that we're seeing them do now looks really fucking good, and I think the reason is that they know that it doesn't look as realistic as American CG. So I think what they do is they make the designs more like stylized. To compensate.
So. Although I guess it works in this teaser trailer or this concept trailer's advantage, because it's just a 4-minute project, therefore they're allowed to put as much resource as they can into a 4-minute product as opposed to a 2-hour-long movie. So that's why it looks as good as it does. Some people say that it still doesn't look that great. I, on the other hand, had no real issues with the quality of the CGI itself. To me, it was good enough for it to rock my socks off.
To me, it's like, I thought it was like pretty decent CG. I feel like it's like the kind of CG that we had back in the 90s. I feel like it looks like something similar to like how 98 looked, which the CG is not the problem with that movie. You know, the CG is not the problem with that movie. That movie looks okay. It's not as if we have Yongari CG.
Oh no. or like, I don't know, like fucking Anaconda CG.
Oh God.
Talk about a movie that does not age well.
CG.
That CG was never good from the start.
Courage the Cowardly Dog CG. That's supposed to look bad because that makes it creepier, but even so.
Yeah. So with the new Gamera trailer, it provided us an interesting story where you have a child whose father was killed in a Gauss attack, which kind of gave a very Attack on Titan vibe to me personally, and then Gamera.
Yeah, I got an Attack on Titan vibe from the trailer as well. Not only because the Gauss were flying around eating people, but also like color choices and like there's a lot of like
the color choice itself the color choice itself felt very 2014, if you ask me, especially during like the scene where you see Gamera himself.
Yeah, Gamera looks amazing.
Yeah, he kind of looks like he looks like a more like a down to earth.
He looks like
he looks like G3 Gamera mixed with bits of 2014 Godzilla.
I was gonna ask,
you know how that Gamera who appears at the beginning of The Brave looks like old and like he's been through some shit.
Yeah.
Like I kind of got that feeling from this Gamera that's been through some shit. Like this is not his first rodeo, and now he's like fighting the swarm of Gauss. The Gauss didn't look that great at it. There's something, the bodies looked fine, but there was something kind of derpy about the heads. Now that's not to say that Heisei Gauss never had their moments of derp face, because they did, but it just looked a little off in my opinion.
Okay.
In the trailer, who looks.
What were you about to say, David?
Did it seem like whoever made the design for Gamera, they probably like imagine how would Legendary have designed this?
I guess so. But, for the plot announcement, basically, like, the boy, he lost his father, Gamera inadvertently saves him as a nice little homage to the 70s Gamera. Gamera wipes out all the Gausses in a nice homage to G3, to the ending of Gamera 3, and then we cut to 10 years later, where he fights a new monster, never-before-seen monster, which, in my opinion, looks very similar to Virus, and ends on a neat little cliffhanger.
Did you say it looks similar to Iris?
Virus.
Oh, Virus.
Yeah, because it has like a pointed head. He's gray-skinned, and the first thing you see coming out of that building are tentacles.
Yeah, I didn't think of that when I was watching
Could that
the trailer.
be Virus?
You're right, it does look a lot like Virus. For a second I thought you said Beerus, and I was very confused. But no, it does look a lot like Virus.
Yeah, although it's like, maybe, I'm assuming that maybe it's a new creature because the Gals look so close to their original counterparts, or at least their Heisei counterparts, while this one looks very different with its hunchback, its two weird tendril spirals, and its unique vortex bubble attack, which feels like a power that would come right out of the Showa series. So I'm assuming that maybe they were trying to show off an old classic monster, while at the same time showing off the new thing, trying to blend a whole bunch of elements familiar elements along with newer elements for this concept trailer.
But seems like it.
So yeah, I'm very stoked judging from this trailer alone. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, it looks really
Me
good.
and Dylan called it. Didn't we say that the success of Legendary's Godzilla and Pacific Rim would probably convince Kodakawa to reboot Gamera somewhere in the future?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we did predict a revival of the kaiju genre, which we refer to as the kaiju renaissance, or kaiju-sans, if you will. And it appears to be happening, what with all this Legendary movie news and all this shit that's coming out of Japan now.
Yeah, not to mention, Power Rangers is coming out soon.
And Legendary is doing their own shared cinematic universe.
And then maybe that Anne Hathaway Colossal movie might still happen.
Oh, it's still happening, because they recently announced some casting.
Of course, at the time that we made that decision, that was before I even knew that Attack on Titan was a thing, so that's sort of in the same wheelhouse now. So, like, there's all this shit going on.
Oh, yeah, and I cannot be more excited for this new age of giant monster media. You guys still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just...
Okay.
I'm actually watching the trailer right now.
All right, excellent. So, with that said, I believe that is a good point to end this particular episode of the Sons of Serizawa podcast. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We apologize that we were not able to produce a legit Halloween episode, but hopefully this content will suffice for this year. So, but in the meantime, you can check out any of the stuff that's currently on our channel, on upcoming stuff coming to Bill's channel, and more good stuff along the way. So be sure to like the SOS Network homepage on Facebook. You can check out Toho Nation, a Facebook group dedicated to the Tokusatsu, giant monsters, and all sorts of related media, what have you. And yeah, anything else you guys like to pimp out in particular?
No, but
probably by the time this podcast goes up, the me and Bill's review of Dragon Ball Z Fukatsu no F, or Resurrection F if you're American, will be up on my channel, so you can check that out. It's 3 hours of us gushing over this amazing piece of fan service that Akira Toriyama has graced us with. So, with an appropriate amount of tangents, because you wouldn't expect anything less from us.
Mm-hmm. And I recently uploaded my review for the 1994 Toho film Orochi the Eight-Headed Dragon. You can check that out, and as well as my upcoming episodes of Shoe Watch, one of which I actually do get to go more in depth with the Gamera franchise as a whole with Inshoma, as well as again do an episode with the writer and artist of Night of the Fire Beast, Christopher Martinez and Jonathan Claude. And also stay tuned for upcoming reviews for the rest of the Heisei Godzilla series, that being Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla and vs. Destroya. So with that said, I have been Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir.
I am Gorzard, and good night, pests.
I am Super DM64, and Merry Christmas, everybody.
And a Happy New Year. So until next time, everybody, take care, and remember, the science is sound.